What's the issue with having spinning pitches? Is it bad that these tracks are finally producing actual results in favor of the home team most of the time? Say what you want, but these tracks are much better than the horrible flat tracks created in the past, resulting in the accumulation of ridiculous amounts of runs, only leading to draws or losses for Pakistan. And for those claiming that spinning pitches aren't good for Test cricket, would they prefer flat pitches where Pakistan's batters can make centuries or even a double hundred, while forgetting such pitches would inflate batting averages on both sides? Wasn't it embarrassing enough when Harry Brooks scored 300 runs? Yes, Pakistan lost the second test against the West Indies. It's not because of the pitch. It's because of the weaknesses in Pakistan cricket. So is the issue actually that Pakistan's weaknesses have been identified clearly? Poor technique against spin and lack of skilled fast bowling, especially reverse as echoed by the coach Aqib Javed, are the issues to address. If these spinning wickets have clearly identified these weaknesses in Pakistan's batting, isn't it better to address them between now and the next test match, which is months away? Shouldn't the batters reflect on their performances, or are they afraid of being sent back to play domestic cricket like the Indian players had to after their disastrous tour of Australia? I'm just flabbergasted at the amount of fuss over these two matches, which had no impact on the World Test Championship standings. Whether Pakistan ended up last or 7th or 8th in the ranking, what does it matter? They lost, and it's not because of the singular defeat against the West Indies on a spinning track, but because they lost 9 out of 14 matches and won only 5 in total, 3 of which were on these turning pitches. Being granular is great, but understanding the bigger picture is imperative. For so long, we've heard talks of experimentation with strategies that failed miserably. But now, when a tactic is actually working, why turn it into a crisis over a non-issue? It's also astonishing how much Pakistani journalists, social media, and fans are complaining about the spinning tracks. Did West Indians complain? Did they make a fuss regarding the track? Did they say anything that sounded stubborn and defensive on their part? No, instead, they recognized what they needed to do, utilized their strengths, and found a way to counterattack, winning crucial sessions in the game. Like their captain stated before the game, they needed to be braver in tackling these challenging conditions. Isn't this what Test cricket is all about? Warrican was outstanding throughout, being the leading wicket taker of the series, but the charge up front by the West Indian captain Craig Brathwaite, Amir Jangu, and Kavem Hodge in the second innings deserves a huge mention. They played courageously, and their change in batting approach delivered fruit. Criticism is fine, but the baseless accusations of having spinning tracks need to stop. India's had them for ages. Bangladesh has had them more than they need to. It's nothing new. India suffered a series whitewash against New Zealand on similar tracks after losing the toss. Yet, they are back with turning pitches and a bucket load of spinners and all-rounders to challenge England, albeit in a different format. Before the second test, a journalist asked Pakistan's coach how Pakistan would develop fast bowlers like Wasim Akram, Waqar Younis, or Shoaib Akhtar if they keep creating spinning tracks. Well, my question is, do we only consider fast bowlers as stars? Isn't NOMAN Ali a star in his own right, especially when we throw titles around and consider players as stars overnight? He's the only Pakistani spinner to take a test hat-trick. Tell me, where are the main fast bowlers Pakistan is supposed to be nurturing? Why does Haris Rauf only stick to white ball cricket? What happened to Naseem Shah's pace and consistency? Why does Shaheen Afridi get rest periods due to workload management? And before someone comments, well, we have Champions Trophy coming up, then why aren't some of the batters rested too? The truth of the matter is many of our fast bowlers are attracted to the shorter format, which requires a lot less effort, and are distracted by the allure of franchise cricket, rather than following in the footsteps of past legends. Before the series started, I wondered why Babar Azam and Mohammad Rizwan were included in the squad in the first place, considering their continuous involvement in all formats. I mean, you can argue that Babar was in good form with 3 consecutive 50s in South Africa, but his struggle against spin was absolutely depressing. Why did the captain stick to having him play one down in the second innings? Why not send Saud Shakil or Mohammad Rizwan one down when they were the ones who could cause some damage? I wonder how this dip in Babar's performance will impact what he does in the Champions Trophy. Oppositions would easily know to introduce a left-arm spinner to expose Babar's weakness, and it's really up to him what he does to address this, because it is difficult to digest being called the best player in Pakistan when you struggle against spin. Since parallels are drawn and fans are constantly fighting on both sides to establish the bigger king between Babar and Kohli, they can also draw some parallels of their struggles and dismissals against left-arm spinners and outside off-stump deliveries. And perhaps Babar needs to go play domestic cricket like Virat Kohli. What the Pakistani batters failed to do was adapt to the conditions. They seemed either stuck in the crease or played rash, loose shots that led to their dismissals. In particular, during the second innings, their approach looked aimless and poorly thought out. Shan, Herrera, and Babar all underperformed, and Kamran Ghulam, who started his international career with a century, showed promise, but he still needs to work on his temperament. He needs to learn how to better manage his innings in certain situations, particularly when he's gotten a start in a low-scoring game. Some of the shots he played in this series just weren't suited to a pitch like this. The Pakistani top order failed to apply themselves, and looking at Herrera's dismissals, it becomes clear that a bottom-up approach might be the way forward for Pakistan cricket. If ranked turners are likely to become the norm, players at the domestic level should be exposed to those conditions more often. Yes, the West Indian batters had the height advantage, particularly when it came to sweeping from the front foot, but so Shakil's technique stood out. He often used the crease to his advantage, stepping down to place the ball in the gaps and sweeping from there. Rizwan and Salman Ali Agha know how to do this. Perhaps this is an area Babar Azam could add to his game to counter the spinners. However, the complete lack of support from the top order was an issue here. Even the players who were generally good against spin were undone by the pressure and didn't show enough resistance or value their wickets in the second innings, which was the main reason for this loss. There also should be growing concerns over Abrar Ahmed's recent performances. Despite playing on a turning wicket, he only managed to claim 2 wickets in the second and 5 in the first Test match. With form like this, how can we expect him to perform well in the Champions Trophy? As for captain SHAN Masood, he doesn't deserve the harsh criticism he's faced in post-match conferences. The PCB made the decision to appoint him as captain, and it's up to them to decide his future in that role. He alone is not responsible for Pakistan's 9th place finish. It's a reflection of a much larger issue. However, it must be said, something seems to be missing with Shan. While I acknowledge that the pool of players he's working with isn't exactly packed with world beaters, I rarely see him take an aggressive approach or step up as a leader. He doesn't seem to assert himself either when making team selections or when leading on the field. Even with reviews, he often looks hesitant, relying heavily on input from bowlers and the wicketkeeper. This gives the impression of a captain who is on the defensive rather than one leading from the front. Given his experience in county cricket and with the national team, this lack of assertiveness is puzzling. I also don't understand why he didn't introduce a pacer when the spinners were struggling to get the West Indian tail-enders out. Anyway, that's it for now. Let me know what you think through your comments, and if you haven't already done so, do check out my latest podcast with Salman Butt, and I'll see you in my next video. Take care.